We're going to call in order. The Downtown Development Authority Board special meeting, May 19, 2026, 5:30, Comstock Township Hall, 5858 King Highway, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Call to order. The Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all stand. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So do a standard roll call by name.
Roll call, Jeffrey Townsend here.
You're supposed to call their name. You gotta call their name.
Oh, I'm sorry. We call the roll call. Jeffrey Townsend here, Larry Rabbit. We don't have the list of the people that are here.
You can use the top of the agenda.
There we go. Just go down.
Keith Witcher.
Here.
Ben Martin.
Here.
William Knight.
Here.
John Geisler. Larry Rabbit.
Here.
Matt Elliott.
Here.
John Scoley.
Here.
Jasper Reed Lannon.
No.
Roll call.
Roll call time.
Approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
We actually need to strike item number 8 from the agenda, the overview. Sarah was not able to make it this evening. She's going to reschedule.
Okay.
Be looking for a motion.
So look for a motion.
All right, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda, striking line item number 8.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The approval of the April 22nd, 26 DDA meeting minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from the April 22nd meeting.
Support.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passes. We don't have any audience, but I'll read it out anyway. The person may speak, public comment. The person may speak only one time for no more than 3 minutes. This time may not be given to another person to extend their time. The person speaking has the floor, and no other person shall speak during someone else's time. During this time, you will be making statements to the board without discussion from the board members, but you are welcome to make an appointment with the authority director to discuss your comment further. Please keep comment clean and respectful. We don't have any.
No public comment. You want to move on?
Yeah, there is no public comment. The presentation, Michigan Downtown Association, Mrs. Dana Walker.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So I will be speaking from over here, but obviously the presentation is up there. I am not offended by you turning your backs to me, I promise. And in fact, I don't know if you have to have the microphone, I can certainly walk up forward too. So you just let me know. But thank you again for inviting me. So I'm Dana Walker with the Michigan Downtown Association, and I am here to provide some training for, hi there.
Sorry, guys. Come on in.
No problem. So I'm here to provide information regarding downtown development authorities, specifically what a DDA is, what tax increment financing is, and board and township relations, etc. So I'll start my presentation, and throughout the presentation, there are chances for questions, but if something's burning a hole in your head, please just let it out. Let me know, and we'll stop and we can answer the questions. So if I go up here, does that affect the TV? Okay, so I gotta be there. Okay.
You could bring that. Sometimes presentations, they may put the microphone right by the laptop.
Hold it and carry it with you if you want to.
Oh, it's like,
Set that for the record.
It's like Bob Barker.
You can also sit it in the corner here, right on
Okay.
the dais. I've seen
Okay.
people do that, or over by your computer.
Okay, I just feel really out of it over there, but, so we'll see how this goes. Okay.
Yeah. We could certainly move the
I
podium
could
if you'd
bring
like.
stuff too, that's fine, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Okay, we'll get going. All right, thank you. All right, so goals for today, we're gonna talk about what a DDA is. We're gonna talk about its purpose and its importance.
Will John move the podium?
We're also gonna talk about what a DDA can and cannot do. We'll also talk about some other funding information for DDAs and relationships to the municipality, director roles and responsibility, board member roles, and always there's some time for Q&A for you all. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks. Thank you so much. This is a better setup for us. Okay, perfect. All right, so like I mentioned, my name is Dana Walker. I have been in this position with the Michigan Downtown Association for going on 7 years now. And before that, I was a director for the Imlay City Downtown Development Authority. Imlay City is in the thumb of Michigan in Lapeer County. And I also owned a gift store in downtown Farmington, Oakland County. So I have seen the sides of a business owner, but also the inner workings of a downtown development authority. I was on the board for the MDA for about a year or so, and when this position opened up, I knew it was a great spot for me to be, and I've loved it ever since. So that's a little bit about who I am. And even before my foray into downtown worlds, I was an educator for Utica schools, and I taught junior high for 11 years. So I do have angel wings coming to me. So what is the MDA? The Michigan Downtown Association. We are an organization that started in 1980. We are a nonprofit, and our members are from across the state of Michigan. So we are a member-based organization. This year is celebrating, like I said, our 46th year. We have about 230 members. Those members are downtown development authorities like Comstock. They are cities, counties, economic development agencies, businesses, individuals, nonprofits, all with something in common, the love for downtowns and the wanting for Michigan downtowns to be stronger, more resilient, and really the economic drivers of a community, a region, and the state. We provide, our organization is member-based, like I mentioned. We provide 3 major pillars, if you will: advocacy, education, and networking. For advocacy, what we do is at a national and state and local level, we make sure that our elected officials and community members understand the importance of downtowns, specifically downtown development authorities, which we'll get into, but really downtown management as a whole. So whether a community has a DDA, a downtown development authority, or not, downtown management is extremely, extremely important for your community. So we provide advocacy that way. Tonight, I am advocating for stronger downtowns, and I'm providing you education, but also it's a way to advocate for our downtowns. We have retained last year in 25, we retained the services of Midwest Strategy Group, a lobby firm in downtown Lansing. So they work very closely with our Michigan Downtown Association to provide advocacy on behalf of downtowns across the state. They give us weekly updates. They provide us information if someone wants to make an amendment to the law that created DDAs. I'll get into that in a few minutes. And so that we are familiar with what is going on at the state level. And they also can tell us about laws or amendments or changes to maybe historic preservation, anything economic development, brownfield, all these topics that maybe don't say downtown development authority in them, but somehow relate to our downtowns. So we have hired them, and the benefit of that is, as an organization with 230 members, we can afford a lobbyist and speak on behalf of you. Where if Comstock wanted to, should I say Comstock Center, or is Comstock okay? Comstock sign? Okay. All right, I just want to make sure I'm right. So rather than Comstock hiring a lobbyist, which can get pricey. We, because we're in power in numbers, have hired one for our members and really for all downtowns in the state. We provide, I'll get more into that in just a minute, but we also provide education. Again, tonight is a great way for me to educate a group of people about the power of downtown development authorities and what a DDA can and cannot do and why you are all so important. But we also have webinars, which I strongly recommend that you take a look at. We have a webinar series. There's 11, 12 topics that you can purchase and then share with one another, a wide range of topics.
And I have a question on that. The login for that, is there a group login that we obtain? I didn't know, because I think one of them was directed maybe to Jeff when we switched from a director to a chair.
Right.
I was a little timid to email that out.
Sure.
I didn't know, I believe that our group, we paid for the training and we paid for the renewal of the membership. Does that mean then we all have access to those webinars?
Well, it really, yes and no. So our website allows for one member to have a password.
Yeah.
And then from there, he or she can disseminate the information. But if he or she signs up for a webinar, I send that webinar link to that person who then can share it. Does that make sense?
I gotcha.
Yeah, and that link for the webinars, they don't expire and you can share it. So whether you say, hey, in August, let's make sure we've all watched the Open Meetings Act webinar. So you have 2 months to take a look at it.
And how many webinars are on the website?
Oh, I think there's we just added one, so there's 11 now.
Okay.
And so you can buy them individually or all together. So.
Okay, and so then our membership is separate from the webinars?
Correct, that's an additional, you get a member rate.
Yep, okay.
For buying a webinar.
So that could be something that we could have discussion at our next meeting?
Sure.
Is
take a look,
to take a look at that?
Yeah, and you don't, like I said, some of them aren't going to pertain.
Now,
Like social districts, you might not right now, let's not deal with social districts, but, so there's a list of 11, so let's prioritize which
And
one.
that is what the online login takes you to?
Yes.
So other
register
than that,
for
we're
that.
not missing anything else for the members to have access to the website, right?
Correct,
Just
yeah.
for the webinars?
Well, no. So the website allows you to register, allows the person to register for events. There's also a portal in there where you can download and take a look at other resources. Maybe you need an example of bylaws. Maybe you need an example of how someone handled historic preservation or an ordinance. You can go in there and look for those kinds of resources. So we allow like one, maybe 2 people access into that, and then because we rely on the board chair or a director to disseminate, so that there's a leader, right, that can disseminate that information.
And then they send that through links?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then those links are able to be viewed by multiple people?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, so that's part of the education is within our website. We have a lot of resources for you there also. And then also we have several events throughout the year. In fact, in November, we'll have our 2-day conference. It's going to be held in Kalamazoo. So it's November 4th, 5th, and 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sorry, I don't remember the dates right off the top of my head. But so registration is open for that. So you can certainly register under a member event. Each one of you that wanted to attend would register, and we'd love to have you for that 2-day educational experience. So something else to think about. Our agenda for that is coming. It's not out quite yet. In June, we're going to be in South Haven for a 1-day summer workshop. So that's a little bit closer than the east side of our state, but all that information can be found on our website.
And a question, the June one compared to the November one, is there differentiation between the two of them?
Yeah, we provide, each workshop, each conference has different sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I emailed that to William and Jeffrey so we could talk about it at our next meeting. And what date is that, June?
June 4th.
Okay.
Did you say the November one was in Kalamazoo here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
This is great. It's given us agenda topics.
Yeah, good. So, and then once you kind of work your way through, I would recommend, there's a link on and I can send it to someone. There's a link on our website that tells you all the member benefits and gives you a little direction of how to get into the website and what you can find there. I can send some of the directions for how you can do a few of those things too. So just remind me after this meeting and I'll take some notes about that. So, okay. So we provide education, advocacy, and networking. So at all of our events, we have some sort of networking. We just did a networking today virtually, especially for new directors under 3 years or less experience. So we do that virtually. We are kind of like a chamber of commerce in that way, in that if someone calls and says, I would really like you to recommend a planner or someone that does downtown lighting, we can go to our list of members and I can say, here's the list that have worked with the MDA before and sponsor us. Or someone will call me with a question and I don't know the answer, but I know Downtown Lapeer just did that project. I'm going to connect you with Jim in Downtown Lapeer. So it's really that network across the state of individuals all going towards downtown advocacy and thriving. So back to the advocacy in 2018 in Lansing, there were some rumblings, actually more than rumblings, about gutting how downtown development authorities were and are funded, and DDAs were really about to be erased, literally from the books. So with the MDA, we had a different lobbyist at that time, but with our lobbyists, with the MDA, and with some partners in the legislator office, we were able to, the legislature, we were able to sit down, hammer out some things, and the law that was from 1975 was amended to PA 57 of 2018. So it's just a way that our membership and what our organization has been doing for 46 years has helped downtowns across the state. So rather than gutting DDAs like they wanted to do in 2017 and 2018, they made some changes to reporting requirements to make DDAs more transparent. All a good thing, etc. But rather than gut it, we just made some changes that way. So again, with our organization, we started in 1980. Downtown Development Authorities were created in 1975 by the state of Michigan. So there's no coincidence that 5 years later, our organization was founded, because our founding fathers and mothers saw the need for an organization dedicated to downtowns. You've probably heard of Michigan Municipal League, Michigan Township Association, Michigan Historic Preservation Network. All those have very specific purposes, and although a cliche, they're all tools in our toolbox. The MDA is specific to downtown management. And downtowns can take a very different look. Some are traditional, some are more corridors, but if you're using downtown development authorities or tax increment financing, we're an excellent resource for all that. So that's a little bit about me and the MDA, and I'm happy to dig a little bit deeper into your membership in a little bit. But just so I can be aware of who I'm speaking to, if you could just tell me your name and then what part, like where are you from the community? Do you own a business? Are you with the township? Are you a volunteer? Are you a resident? Something like that, so that I can just make sure that as I'm talking, I'm making sure I'm hitting all the right points. Who wants to go first?
Jaspreet. Hi, my name is Jaspreet Nanan. I grew up here in Comstock. I attended Eastham Elementary, and then I own a business in Comstock as well. I own a gas station on the corner there.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I think I just supported you about some Chex Mix.
Can't go wrong with Chex Mix.
My name's Ben Martin. I'm the township supervisor. I own a farm market and winery here in town. I have 5 children. I went to Comstock, graduated in 2008, and also a member of the DDA board and the township board.
Awesome, thank you.
Keith Wilcher, I'm the resident member. I have 2 children in school here. I work in the neighborhood as well.
Jeffrey Townsend, I am the chair. I've been on this board for approximately 8 years. I'm the pastor on Kings Highway, and I also own a business in Comstock.
Great.
All of my children graduated from Comstock.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm Matt Elliott, and have a business in Comstock, and that's pretty much it.
That's a lot.
I don't live in Comstock,
Okay.
I have kids, so.
Yeah, but you own a business and you're here with us, so that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is William Knight. I'm a lifelong resident of Comstock, graduated in 2005 from Comstock High School. I'm the treasurer secretary of the DDA. I also am the Deputy Treasurer for Comstock Charter Township, and also the Senior Vice Commander at the local VFW in the DDA.
Awesome. And in your free time?
Yeah.
My name is John Charlie. I own a lawn care business and serve a bunch of properties downtown and then all in Comstock.
My name's Larry Rabbit. I had a business here in Comstock, closed up in October, but I'm also a resident of Comstock.
Very good. Thank you. All right, I appreciate that. That just helps me know what the questions are coming from. Okay, so let's talk about why we're probably here tonight, and that's about downtown development authorities. All right, so what is a DDA? What is a downtown development authority? And through this, if I mention the word municipality or city, in your case, I mean the township, okay? But I'm more used to cities, so forgive me. I will try and correct myself as I go. So DDAs, downtown development authorities, were formed, like I mentioned, in the state of Michigan in 1975. The state at the time saw that our downtowns were decreasing, they were not thriving. People were leaving downtowns. They were going to these things called malls or strip malls. People were leaving their buildings, and there was a sense of decay, especially after World War II, when you had the startup of the malls and the decline of the downtowns. And it was really a failure on a lot of levels, but people could not foresee that, or if they did, they chose not to do anything about it. So what the state of Michigan did in 1975 was create no, it's just slipped my mind, but it's not PA 57, 197, it's up there, thank you. PA 197 that created downtown development authorities. The goal, and if you take a look at DDA law, one of the first things DDA law says is up there under C, its goal to halt property value deterioration and increase property tax valuation to eliminate the cause of that deterioration and to promote economic growth. So that's the purpose of why DDAs were created in the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan is just a handful of states in the country that offer something like a DDA. When you go to like National Main Street conferences, people are amazed that we have this kind of economic tool. So it is a blessing, although sometimes I know it can seem like pulling your hair out. Why am I doing this? But it is a blessing. It is a great way to reinvest back into your downtown. So PA 197 of 1975, which later became PA 57 of 2018, created downtown development authorities and tax increment financing, TIF, as an economic tool. I will happily give Ben or Jeffrey this PowerPoint presentation. I can send that, and all the links are live, so you can see that as well, okay? The purpose is to reinvest tax dollars back into your core, back into your downtown core. So what does that mean? You could invest in infrastructure, public gathering and parks, revitalization of vacant or underutilized properties, business recruitment, safety, rehab, blight, job creation, events and promotions. So and I gave everyone the importance of downtown development authorities and TIF, and really we have that on our website as a reference. So if anyone questions you about what a DDA is or what TIF is or why it's important, this is a cheat sheet. And we want our boards across the state to understand this basic level of what a DDA is. If you get too much into the weeds, that's why you can direct them to me or your board chair or someone else. But as a DDA board member, we really want you to understand at a basic level what a downtown development authority is and can do. That's why you're here tonight, and what tax increment financing is. This is so cool. So a DDA was established by a municipal ordinance. So do you know when your DDA was established? Ish?
At least 2017.
Oh, 2017, so you're young, yes, okay,
And then I think it had, like, during COVID, it had a little pause, did it?
okay,
Yeah.
sure,
No, I don't think we did.
Okay,
We
Kept
continued
going?
through, yeah.
Yeah.
okay. So in 2017, let's call it 2017, your municipality said, we need another economic development tool to help our core. We are going to, by ordinance, create something called a Downtown Development Authority. And the purpose of that DDA is going to halt or try to halt the deterioration of our property values within the core area and reinvest back into it. And I'm going to get to a lovely simple graph in just a second. By law, by DDA law, by state law, the DDA becomes the managing organization of this defined area. So there's a map in your DDA TIF plan that outlines where your boundary is.
Was over there, but it's.
Okay, so
Can-
that's,
How easy is that to change?
you can change it. There are repercussions if you do change the boundary, like, do you know who you get tax increment financing from? Your taxing jurisdictions, like the township, does the county, do you get TIF dollars from the county?
Not the county,
Or college, or
Pretty sure it's on the township.
all in the
but it's the
township? Okay,
township. Yes.
okay. So when you open, you can change a plan.
But we're in Kalamazoo County, so
Yeah,
I'm not sure how deep the layers of the onion go.
Right.
But these are good questions for us to note down.
yes,
Questions. So what would your question be? Who's our taxing jurisdiction?
yep. Who do you get tax increment financing from?
I believe it would be Comstock Township if I,
And only? Because
Yes.
sometimes you can have the county, you can have the township, you can have the city, you can have the local college. I mean, there, you could get all kinds.
yeah, we want it all.
Right. They don't want to give it all, though.
I'm sure
So,
it's just the township
I know.
that I
Okay.
know of. Yeah.
okay.
As far as I know, we only get it from the
Okay,
township.
the township, okay. So then changing your boundaries would be a little bit easier. It is still a process, it's outlined in the law. You want to really make sure you want to do it for the right reasons. But yes, it'll take time and energy. And sometimes money if you want someone professionally to do it, which I sometimes recommend just because it is a lot, especially if you don't have a full-time staffer. So really think of the pros and cons of why you'd want to change that boundary.
And I wonder, looking back on history, if we're not able to ask the person who created those boundaries.
Why?
Yeah, I wonder, how do we gauge that understanding? Or is that something that we may never understand? Why well, I think at our last board meeting, we kind of talked about that. You know, for us, it's kind of a random map.
Right.
I'm sure there was a rhyme and a reason why. But I wonder how we would go about that to understand.
Yeah, I guess, and I would look at your plan to see, was there a consultant firm that was involved? They might have some history of that. Take a look at that, or if you
Yeah, because
can-
before we would want to change it, it would be good to
Yeah.
have an understanding of why
Why
it is
it was
what
there
it
in the
is.
first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And per the law, you are a separate authority. You have close ties with your municipality, whether the municipality is a city or a township. However, per the law, it states that you are at your own authority. So you have your own budget, you have your own board, you can have your own employee. Okay? You can be sued. You can sue. You are your own authority. Okay?
So we can have our own office.
Yes. If you pay for it. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, you can have your own office, yes. And we'll get into the plan in just a minute, so give me a second. I might circle back to that. All right, so the purpose of a DDA then is to comprehensively manage downtowns. And again, I'm using downtowns and district interchangeably to maximize the local economy. So your job of this DDA is on that map that we keep talking about. You're comprehensively managing that district. Comstock might have a police chief, a fire chief, a Department of Public Works person. A village might have a village manager, et cetera, zoning coordinator. They all have a specific duty. The zoning is going to do the zoning, right? The police chief is the expert on the police. You, as a DDA board, and your staff, if you had a staff, you're the experts for your core, for that district, okay? And your also purpose, back to the law, is to halt that property value from decreasing. You don't want property values to decrease. And the belief is strengthening the core benefits all. Think of your body, think of your core. If you can strengthen your core, your whole body becomes stronger. The same with a downtown area or a district, that was the belief, and still is today, obviously, that's why I'm standing here, is that the downtown or that core district is what really strengthens the community, and then it's that ripple effect. So the importance of downtown development authorities, you manage TIF dollars, tax increment financing. I'll get to TIF in just a minute. You are the expertise of your downtown, of your district. Many of you said you had businesses within Comstock. And I would argue that, business owners really hear almost everything, good, bad, and otherwise, from a community, right? So you are becoming those experts. You know before anyone when the economy is good or bad. You know before anybody when stuff happens in the community because you're the ears and the eyes of the community. You are charged with bringing people back to your core, whether it's through events or economic development or infrastructure improvements. But we, I think, could all see that a downtown or the district is the core for a community. It's probably where most of your employees are located, except maybe the school district. Entertainment purposes, necessities, food, groceries, gas, the government operations, recreation, it's a cultural hub, an exchange of ideas. So really, if you think about what happens in your downtown or your district, how important all of that is. And rather than react, we see our downtown development authorities as guiding the change, okay? So what is coming next? We want to guide that change. Is it changes in housing? Is it changing to infrastructure? Is it changing in brick and mortar? What are the latest trends? You become the experts, whether it's a board or the staff or the chair of the DDA to guide that change. And just like painting the Mackinac Bridge, you start in 2026 and in 2031 you're at the other side of the bridge. Do you know what you do in 2032? You start over. So the work is never done, right? So it's just like painting the Mackinac Bridge. The work is never done. I would guess that none of you could say there's a downtown in Michigan that is absolutely perfect and never needs another day of work to it. Or they come close, but guess what? It's not, the wizard is back there. You might not see him or her, but there's things behind the scenes that are making that downtown go. So the work is never done. But don't be depressed, it's good work. So the benefits of having a DDA is that what happens in a downtown really affects everybody. Think of that ripple effect. The benefits for the city or the township in this case is the Downtown Development Authority provides focused resources and insights. All right, I'm going to move to tax increment financing and then we'll take some questions on both DDAs and TIF. So tax increment financing is what your DDA more than likely uses for most, if not all, of its funding. You might have a fundraiser, you might have sponsorships, you might pull in some money for an event, you might have a donation. But more than likely, your main budget item, income-wise, is tax increment financing. So TIF is the annual capture of the year-to-year growth in property values in a defined district. So let's go back to that map that we had. And in 2017, when you began, they put a cap, I'll say a cap, on the property values within that district. The township still gets all those property values and taxes up to that cap. Any growth from 2017 on is captured by the Downtown Development Authority. It could be this much growth, or it could be this much growth. You're not taking taxes away from the township or any other taxing jurisdiction. They're still getting that baseline and below, from 2017 below, right? up until 2017. And then what you are doing is you're gaining that increase, if there's an increase. Some DDAs don't see, maybe they started in 2006 or 7. They might have had a while before they saw any increases, okay? So it allows, why would the township want a DDA then? Because it's allowing the Downtown Development Authority to take that growth and directly reinvest it back into that map. Not outside the map.
That growth for the ceiling, the consumer price index, you don't get any part of that. It just floats up, right? Like as people's assessments increase and their taxes go up, yours is just after that. You don't capture any of that inflation.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So it captures the increase that might otherwise go to other taxing jurisdictions. For example, I'll use in Imlay City where I was the director. So we captured taxes increment financing from the city of Imlay City and the county. At the time when I was there in 2017, our capture from the county, Lapeer County, was $60,000. So if the DDA wasn't there, Lapeer County would have received that $60,000, and they could have spent it anywhere in the county. Because the DDA captured it, that $60,000 had to stay within the Imlay City downtown. Huge difference, right? So it's a way, for example, to make sure that those increases in value, not increased in taxes, increase in value are directed right back to your core. So if there's anything that you get out of tonight, it is not an additional tax on anybody. The township or other taxing jurisdictions, in my case, the county, they were not losing those initial funds. They're still getting those funds underneath that when we started, whenever Imlay City started. So you're just getting the increase.
So
Yes.
just to clarify, we're getting the increase of the property values within the taxable year, and does it reset every year? So what happens is that we don't get to incrementally we have to have a new base every year.
No, the base is always 2017.
It's 2017.
Yeah, and there's a formula.
Okay.
There's a formula that you're going to work, that the assessor and the township works with in the millage rates, et cetera. So, but that's really into the weeds. But no, it's set at 2017.
Okay. Perfect, thank you for the
Okay,
clarification.
yep. So if you take a look at this chart that's up here, so in this example, 2017 is the tax base, that's the green. Typically, tax increment finance, TIF plans, 10 years, 20 years. So let's say 2017, do you know when yours expires? Probably 2037 would be my guess.
That would be a good question.
So that's on the TIF plan. So find out when that expires. I'm going to guess 2037. So during that 20-year period, in blue is what your DDA is capturing. This is an example. This is not reality because we don't usually see that kind of slope. Wouldn't that be great if we could? But there's going to be dips and da-da-da-da-da, right? So that blue is what you are capturing. The township, in your case, always gets that tax base, that green line. And then the purpose is when your TIF plan ends in 2037, let's say, your taxable property values have gone way up. What did I say in a couple slides? The work is never done. So we like to see plans renewed and amended. That's a process that should start a year or two before your TIF plan expires. So that's why it's important to know your expiration date, because you want to have conversations to the township and say, hey, we want to continue our work. We still have a lot to do. Look what we've been able to do on this concentrated effort. So you can and probably should renew TIF plans because, like I mentioned, the work is never done. So if you take a look at the purpose of a DDA again, with this cycle up here, pick a spot. So the DDA captures that increase. Per the law, the DDA has to reinvest it within that map area. You can't spend it outside the map. That investment causes property values to increase. You capture that increase, you reinvest, and so on and so on. Much like your house, if you were to paint the outside of the house, what happens theoretically to your property value? It goes up, right? So that's the idea. Okay, so the difference, the DDA is the authority that administers the economic growth in the plans, and tax increment financing is one financing tool available to DDAs in a set boundary. Other tools, and I'll get to other ways to raise or to get funds in a little bit. And using a TIF, a DDA can leverage public investment with private investment. That's the key there too, is we have a lot of DDAs that, and I'll get to those examples too, write grants, leverage maybe a facade grant that the DDA does with a developer, and you're taking those public and private investments and really increasing it. DDAs are a little bit more limber than a township or a city. And again, you are your own authority. And I'll get to some of the relationship parts in a little bit too.
Sorry,
Yes.
just another clarity.
Yeah.
So you can work with, let's say, a grant, and let's say you've got whatever, let's say you've got one for a building for some kind of like a social program. Can the DDA loan money out to people and then expect like an interest payment back? Is that something that we have the power to do so?
Yes, so let me get to this. I don't think I mentioned it. I don't think it's coming up, so let me mention it now. You want to make sure with what you're doing is mentioned in your downtown development plan, your downtown plan. So in your downtown development plan in 2017, they came up with a list of projects that the DDA wanted to accomplish. And they probably gave a timeline and an estimate of costs. I'm going to tell you, more than likely, the costs are a little bit more than what they thought they'd be in 2017. Good news, it's a plan. Plans change. So if the project is mentioned in your plan, yes. Now, it might not say, I'm hoping your plan will not say the DDA will plant geraniums on Kings Highway. Your plan might say the DDA will help with streetscape beautification and infrastructure. So it gives you some guidelines, but it's not so specific. So as long as your plan mentions something about, it might say help with historic preservation. It might say help with facades. So you just kind of look at it and then go from there to guide you on what you can and cannot do.
And is that plan that you're referring to when we go to find specifically from that starting point, is that a plan that's submitted to who? Like how would we go about finding that?
That should be with the township's, that should be in the township's files.
Yeah.
Because that had to be delivered to the township. They had to approve it.
The chairman would then have a copy of that, wouldn't he?
Should, yeah, that definitely.
And I think we're at that crossroad when plans change.
Okay.
I think that's likely.
Kind of my next question is how
How do we
long
change
that plan might be? Would it be like a 10-year or would it be a 20-year plan with the TIF?
In our packet.
Okay, yeah, so I would take, and we recommend that you take a look at your plans regularly, 5 years, 10 years, especially since 2020, things have really changed and what our DDAs are doing and just what communities want. And so you can, go through the process of updating and amending your plan. And if you're not changing boundaries, it becomes a lot easier to do the amendments.
And is that amongst ourselves?
Well, then it's going to be, but you're going to take it to the township. It's outlined in the law.
And the township board, like once a year is
No,
what I
you don't,
think.
I wouldn't do it once, you don't have to do.
Okay.
You don't have to do the plan every year. That would be too cumbersome.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I will say though, is what you should be doing once a year. So you have your downtown plan. Once a year, and I kind of get to this later on based on some of the questions, discussions that we've had, Ben, is that once a year, as a board, decide, okay, what are we going to concentrate on this year? Maybe it's one thing, maybe it's 3 things, and concentrate on that. Okay, so we have 3 things that we're going to do. And just like at my house, if I have 3 projects in the garden I want done, I know either I write it down or I check it off in my head. I know that I need to weed first, and that's going to be done in May, and then I'm going to mulch, and then I'm going to plant my flower. So you have like an outline of what you're going to do. So that would be what you should be doing once a year during a meeting. It could be a board retreat where there's no business, you're just strategically planning, there's no business, there's no necessarily agenda, but you could just do that to help guide you. And a really great thing is also on agenda, once you have those items, put it at the top of your agenda every month. So that when something's raised, someone can look down and go, okay, how does that fit into our top 3 goals that we decided this year? Does it? It doesn't? Let's table that. Let's not spin wheels. Or does it? And how so? So downtown management, or DDAs, are economic development. So this is a great place for me to grab a drink and take questions. But I got a lot more. We're not done. Any questions about what a DDA is in general, what tax increment financing is in general? Again, we could go days and days on all these topics, but our purpose for me as the MDA is I think we need at least a general understanding from board members of what a DDA is and can do, and what questions you guys might get from the public or from community members, et cetera.
When you talk about overall plan, what do you recommend, like 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan? I know like the TIF is maybe a 20-year, but do you have a plan for every like 5 years, since 20-year span a lot can happen?
Right. I don't know if, I'll have to get back to you on what the average would be. My guess would be 10, but you're looking at it potentially. Yeah, because it can be an expense that you don't want to incur all the time. It also is obviously a lot of man or woman power and resources. But with that being said, are there parts of the plan potentially that could, you could break down in chunks like I mentioned and do that?
What about townships? Do you ever see further, when a township planning commission is planning, they review their plan every 5 years. Do you ever see any synergy with DDAs and planning commissions? And what I find interesting is like the township board has a planning commission liaison, and the ZBA has somebody from the PC on it. Do you ever see much synergy in planning between DDA and the planning commission? And then that way when they go into their master plan, does their master plan ever include part of your plan?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to do that. So if your township is, or your planning is going through a plan review, it would be great if a member of the DDA was on, at least at the table. And so that, that you can coincide that, because it's silly that if we're all in silos, when we all have the common goal of making Comstock the best it can be. So it makes a lot of sense. And who is, so Ben, are you the liaison for the township then?
I'm make recommendations for the appointments for the PC members, and then our treasurer is the liaison.
Okay. So just like for the DDA, and we'll get to this, but the DDAs, according to the law, there has to be a representative from the municipality.
Yeah,
okay, so on the board. And that's the purpose, is so that you are aware of what what the DDA is doing.
Yeah.
And from this meeting, you can go back and talk to your commission or to your board members, et cetera. And so that communication, but we would love to see more.
And it seems like there's a little missing gap, like that law is from the township board to the DDA, but it seems like the planning commission, right in their own name, is planning, and they work on master plan. Although I guess that it's in some sense, a recommending body. To some points.
But I mean, it would be great if you could all match up, and sometimes you can share resources that way too.
Yeah.
Did you bring our maps over?
Yes.
We found it. Awesome.
That's the DDA map, and the interesting part about it is this curved area right here.
Like K Avenue.
Yeah.
Larry, you want to go point to it for her?
Nope, the other one. Back further.
Right here?
So we've got, the reason we're really questioning it, this here, in my understanding, is pretty much all undeveloped because that's the gravel pits and everything else through here. There's some houses on the front end of it.
Yeah, it's in some sense
But
semi-rural, it's not, I don't know if rural would be its word. How would you define the character? It's a strange character of the township.
I think it'd be.
You got a couple businesses there,
There
and
you
then
go.
like a couple houses, and then like 1 or 2 gravel pits up in there.
But the business line is way out here, 35th Street.
So yes, in the spot that Larry was pointing to first, there are one very active gravel pit, and then there's kind of a semi-retired gravel pit, and then different industrial businesses with pretty good property gaps in between, and then some mixed use, so some residential housing, but with bigger lots.
But to actually add to our base of businesses, we need to come down Michigan Avenue
In a good sense of,
on the south side, because you do have business, you've got factories out there. You've got the new park out there, the
Yep.
business park. That's all in Comstock Township.
I'm under the impression that the Comstock Park, the commercial park there, is governed by its own thing.
It is.
So-
It's a county park, but I
and there is a big ITC corridor that goes in that north part
Yeah.
up there. So it's interesting because I think when we all hear the word downtown,
Right.
we kind of think business, commerce, and ours is like, we have a
Spread out.
small downtown
We
for
have
a
a very
business perspective.
Yeah, we have a very small downtown. I would say from Comstock Avenue to like East Michigan, I would call that the downtown aspect.
This right here is really our,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you call it that, our downtown center.
Yep.
Not even this, really.
And then it has some houses mixed in with that, yeah.
All residential up here.
Well, and there's always, like I said, you can always, if you take a look at it, and I don't know if I would do this right away if we're all brand new or whatever, like, let's maybe put that on the list of the future, is to say, okay, do we want to change the boundaries? And again, you really want to take a look at the benefits and the disadvantages of that. And that's where I would bring in someone to guide you with that, whether it's, not I, but I would suggest that you bring in a consultant of some sort, and we have a list of consultants that could help you with that.
Does a DDA, in part of a DDA, is there a focus on housing? Or is it more for business and commerce?
Well, typically, it's for like the core area, and so your DDA, and we'll get to it in the powers, let's lead into it right now, the powers of a DDA as outlined in the law. You're responsible for the downtown district as defined by your ordinance. It's business, property owners, and residents. And so you're trying to create this strong core, and a strong core has a mix of businesses, has a mix of residential.
Okay.
Okay, has a mix probably of a little bit of industry too, okay, and also public property, a park or whatever. So,
Can you tell us any local or close by cities like Kalamazoo, Portage, where they have a DDA and some investment has taken place and projects has been done? Can you tell us somewhere around that we can probably take a drive and take a look at?
yeah,
some of their
absolutely, and
services?
I could create, our members are always wanting to show off, and we could
Yeah.
certainly do that, and that would be another example. When we go to Kalamazoo in the fall, we'll do a downtown tour, so you can see a walking tour of some of what they're doing. But yeah, I can send you a few that come to my mind.
And just to clarify, so what you're basically saying is a rising tide lifts all boats.
There you go.
If the downtown does well, it raises property tax around it. We can't go directly to residential, but what happens is if we make it look nice, then by proxy, it will go up.
Right.
Is that what basically
Yeah,
you're saying?
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And then, I mean, you can have like a mixed use, you know, if you have a 2-story building, maybe you want retail on the bottom and then offers, you know, the housing, it depends on what your zoning says, housing on, you know, the second level, for example.
Can you say, I'm still looking at some of the cities here. Can you say that that Kalamazoo, that new arena, and that building construction that they're doing in the downtown
Yep.
area has to do with anything with the DDA?
I don't know, I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
I don't.
And then I'm sorry to do this to
You're
you
fine.
again. So what we don't know is I'm relatively new. I won't speak for other people. I'm very confused. I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
What I do appreciate you is giving us such clarity in regards to these issues. What would be nice, and I think furthermore beneficiary to us, is if there is an ability for you to tell us, are we capable of writing our own grants, or is there a resource for that? What kind of programs are available to us for those things? That would be a great help for us as well.
Sure.
So I think we need to learn how to crawl before we can walk.
Right.
And before we can run. So I know grants are way down the line. I know who knows how fast we get there. But what would be beneficial for us is that to put us on that pathway to a greater understanding.
Sure.
Because right now, I was just putting out, like, we need to figure out what our bylaws here are. We don't know what's
Right.
going on. So,
Yeah.
and then we can work within those constraints.
Right.
And then try to figure that out. But
Yeah.
again, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, sure. And so I'll get to grant information in just a few minutes.
And we did, William was at a township board conference last meeting.
Oh, great.
And so at our regular next scheduled meeting, since we'll hopefully have all members present, we wanted to work on our bylaws and review them when everybody was at the table. So that's coming up next.
Perfect.
One of the questions on this slide that talks about infrastructure improvements and things like that is, for example, Matt owns a bait and tackle store and will be doing at some point, perhaps if, will the kayaks be involved at some point along down the line? And then we have our park right here. And one of the things that we've heard from our residents is outdoor warning sirens. And in our township, we have a map and it has multiple sirens. But we would look at from our district. And if Matt has a business that's promoting outdoor activity and we have a park where people are maybe launching their kayaks and going fishing, we didn't know in the purview of implementing one of those outdoor warning sirens in our district, is that something within the scope of what we can do? And I seen earlier it said safety.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about is, you know, people like to join a winning team. They like to see something that's moving forward. At some point, we all know community buy-in to our
Yep.
DDA to support our mission. We could use support or respect as a DDA board, but sometimes respect is earned.
Yeah.
And so we were curious at that point, if we, within our little district, we hear things from the community that they want, if we could play our small role in maybe promoting outdoor activity, people to walk the downtown,
Yep.
eventually the sidewalks. We didn't know, and Mr. Wilcher mentioned, at one point we had a flower program that was pretty crucial to the vision of the DDA. We've since kind of backed the bus up on the expenditures for that. And Keith had mentioned he would like to see something from an investment standpoint of repair a sidewalk or light up the sidewalk, because the gas station owner that we may be trying to get support from for their business to support our DDA, if you can't safely get down the sidewalk with it lit.
Sure.
And how, so those are,
Yeah, and so, and as we go through, so I'm gonna talk about these slides, but it's all gonna go back to what you just asked.
yeah.
Okay, so according to the law,
Can I get one more quick question?
Yeah.
The TIF income, is that on all properties or is that just commercial? in the district,
Anything that you're getting the property tax from,
anything.
in the
Houses,
district.
Housing,
Yeah,
anything.
within the district.
Okay.
Okay, so per the law, so now you want to see, okay, can Comstock do this? Well, A, it's in the law, check. Is it in your plan? And again, remember, it might not say add sirens to downtown. It might say safety, right? So you're going to want to look for things like that within your plan. So DDAs can help with infrastructure, design public spaces, revitalize vacant or underutilized property, rehabilitate historic buildings. You can put in, help with mixed use and middle housing, safety, security, maintenance programs, marketing, special events and promotions. The list goes on. These are all listed in the law. I don't need to read all of them, but it is a wide range of things that downtown development authorities can do. So again, take a look at the law first if you're questioning whether one of your projects that you want to do, you can do, and then take a look at your plan and say, okay, can we add a siren? I would consider that public safety. You talked about outdoor recreation, certainly parks. I'm sure that you probably have something in there maybe about outdoor recreation, walkability. I'm just using terms that I often hear. Public parks, public spaces, all of that, recreation, outdoor, that's all very permissible according to the DDA law and more than likely your plan depending on the scope of the plan. All right, again, all kinds of lists. So here are some examples from around the state of what DDAs are doing. So DDAs are placemakers. So whether you're creating a trailhead on the left, that's the community wants a sense of place, and I'm hearing a lot about what the community wants, like in your case, the outdoor and with the natural assets that you have. In downtown Lapeer, they created a social district. Downtown Lapeer, DDA also created this, like a bright color to say, hey, you are now leaving the social district. One of their main goals is to add more art to their downtown, so this was very arty. Your main goal as a DDA might be the outdoor living that I just heard about. So what can you do to get those community buy-ins? If you take a look at the far right, I was driving in West Branch Township, a township, not downtown West Branch, but West Branch Township, and I noticed the new lamppost and a banner, and I stopped and I said to my husband, we are somewhere. And I bet they have a DDA, because this simple banner indicates that you are someplace, and it draws your attention to that place, and it can be as simple as a banner marking your area within your district.
Did we have banners at one point?
There are.
I thought I
We
saw
still do?
them, yeah.
Okay.
In Lapeer,
It's gonna be changed to, Friday, tomorrow. Is it,
No.
Today's Tuesday.
today Tuesday? Phew, I'm moving ahead.
In a couple of days.
Friday, that one banner will be changed on Friday. I spoke with them.
all right, good. And then in Lapeer, again, I use Lapeer a lot because it's the closest downtown to me. But here's Lapeer's, I mentioned their art program, so they had a lot of empty wall space within their downtown, and they have a program, and they add art to their downtown. Again, adding interest to their sidewalks, adding interest to people walking. Colorful, it adds a safety aspect. People like that vibrancy. It means it's a downtown on the move, things like that. It's not as scary for people. So just little projects that they're doing. DDAs is grant writers. All right, here's your grant question. So there are a lot of ways for DDAs to write grants. You might take a look at your local foundation, big or small. I'm sure on the western side of the state there are some larger foundations. You certainly could take a look to see what they have as far as community grants and economic development, things like that. Coopersville uses the Safe Routes to School grant very well. Kate there has done remarkable things with that. The Michigan Economic Development Corps, if you're a Main Street program, offers a lot of grants. And Jim and Lapeer, they, with a grant, purchased a checkerboard and a picnic table. again, you wouldn't think much of a checkerboard, but it draws people. Nothing draws a crowd like a crowd, but it's showing vibrancy on his street. So he put it right in front of the coffee house.
Quick question for you, as it relates to the past slide, but in Traverse City, does Traverse City have a downtown development?
Yes, yeah.
And my wife and I just spent some time there, and it was, as
Yeah.
I'm on the DDA board and we're kind of looking at
Yeah.
paving forward ahead, it just makes you respect a downtown.
Right.
And they have that food truck court.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, do you know, is that a public park space or?
Oh, I don't know. I know there are some, Petoskey has one, but that's on private property. So there are ways of doing it, or we'll have, who just had a food truck, it might have been Live Here, had a food truck rally that was sponsored by like the local chamber. It takes conversation with your local restaurants saying we're not trying to bring in competition, but we actually think it'll help people expose people to you, it draws people downtown,
Yeah.
things like that. So, yeah, I don't know what it is.
Have you seen the one in Traverse City? It's really
I was there
neat.
last year, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's right in the downtown, and
Okay.
it's just a lot next to all the other businesses.
Yeah.
And then it just had multiple food truck vendors. Looked like they were semi-permanent.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I didn't know if they had like short-term leases
Right.
per spot or something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't know. You could, Harry's the director there.
Okay.
Buckholder?
Sorry.
Yeah, you're-
So that is something we can do. So we can work with the, let's say, the Better Business Bureau or the local. So for instance, let's say this park right here, right across the river right here. Can we put up like an ice cream stand and then charge rent for it? Is that like something we can do? Like just say, hey, we have an ice cream here on Monday through Thursdays or weekends. Is that something that's within our purview or no?
Well, you want to check with your zoning.
Sure.
And then check your plan.
Sure.
To see if you can, DDAs can do like more like an incubator. I would do it more like an incubator. So
Sure.
maybe you allow someone to rent, I don't know the situation there, but,
No,
okay, so
this
in
is just
Imlay
a
City.
general, yeah,
Okay, so in
yeah.
Imlay City, the DDA owned a building, and we created an incubator program where we had a program and an entrepreneur could come in and the rent was slightly cheaper than others because we're not competing against business,
Right,
property owners. But with that, they had to sign an agreement. It was 6 months at a discounted rate. We gave them business plan help with their budget, had a mentor, with the hope that after those 6 months, you're going into brick and mortar.
Sure.
So potentially
Okay, like an
something like
incubator.
that.
That'd be great. Okay, so that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, yeah, and so there are ways to find the grants. Actually, in South Haven this summer, we're gonna have a presentation by MML, I think the foundation that's gonna talk about grants. So I can get you more information if you're not able to come to the South Haven workshop. But once that presentation is there, I'll send you that information.
Awesome. Thank you again.
You're welcome. All right, DDAs as event planners. So again, bringing people those promotions downtown. An event can be as simple as throwing cornhole boards out in public spaces. And again, it's just activity. Oxford and Lake Orion are doing it. They also have social districts. So in the proper area, someone can have a beverage, but also cornhole and it's drawing crowds. You might have something a little bit more like Brews on the Bridge in Portland. That was a few years ago. The middle one, I think, was Sparta, and that was a Taylor Swift special event, and I love the two Swifties there. So promotions can be a variety of items. You don't have to go crazy. It can just be something very simple.
And then in those social districts, is the license for the beverages, is the DDA the licensee?
No, it goes through the township. It would, in your case, go through the township.
Okay.
And the liquor control. There's a process for that. Historic preservationists. So it can be a facade grant that takes off the vinyl siding on a building and opens up those big windows like on the right, or something more major like the Vogue in Manistee, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think so. DDAs, you are more apt to attract volunteers than the township or the planning commission or the city or whatever, because DDAs are the ones that are maybe doing those events and those programmings. So if you do have volunteers and you're writing a grant, for example, use those volunteer hours. Look up the 2026 worth of a volunteer. In 2023, a volunteer's time was worth $31 an hour. And that can all be calculated in what you're generating as a community to match your grant funds. So don't underestimate the power of volunteers. And the dumpster up there is another example of a community in Elmont. Rather than donate money, the person donated a dumpster to the DDA after an event, helped with cleanup, gave them some great publicity as well. So there are a lot of ways that you can attract volunteers.
Great. And then have you seen some DDAs work with like high school students or with high schools that say, hey, like if you have a
National Honor Society or
National Honor Society, but even like horticulture, or
yeah.
sometimes those have like, maybe we can teach them how to plant and
Sure.
then we can buy the flowers, but they can work together.
Yeah.
That's very common, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You can definitely have a volunteer core. Maybe you do something just for the kids.
Sure.
You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And are you measuring the volunteer hours as like a part of equity, or is it just like the $31 an hour value? Can you leverage that?
Yeah, oh yeah, you definitely can leverage it. So, for example, in a grant, it might say.
Oh, I see, for the grant.
So the DDA is going to contribute $5,000, $2,000 in cash, $1,000 with a dumpster removal, or dumpster, $1,000 from our DPW that's going to do some work for us.
Yep.
And then $1,000 because we estimate 30 man hours
I see.
in volunteerism.
So there is some equation at some point somewhere down the line of community buy-in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool.
DDAs are promoters and communicators. So whether you have a podcast like in Vassar or Oxford, there's a sign there in downtown Hart that was communicating what this, and we're going to see this empty alley in just a few minutes, what this empty alley could be. They're communicating what this space, what they have plans for. Downtown Lapeer, Main Street communities in the state get an impact report made for them. The MDA has a template for it, and it's it's Publisher or Canva, one of the two, and you can create your own. So we give you the template, you plug in your logo and your stats. It could just be a page, or maybe it's 2 pages, but it's a great way to communicate what you are doing. It doesn't have to be business. It doesn't have to say we voted on this at this meeting. No, it's, hey, we planted 300 flowers with 200 volunteers last month. Pictures tell a great story. Okay, and that's a way, maybe that's something you do, once a year as a goal. Email it, put it on a Facebook or website or whatever. All right. Yep.
Sorry. Social media, like somebody that does that, it's not a bad way to do it. Like somebody that's doing outreach, that's pretty important for the DDA.
Yeah, I would think so. You want to be really careful about who you have do it, because there's speaking for you. And things can get messy on social media. There are social media policies out there that I would just Google and rip off and duplicate and put in my Comstock versus, take out the other one and just make sure it works for you. But yeah. And again, I know, do baby steps. Don't be overwhelmed. Like, okay, what can we get the most bang for our buck and get some traction from all of this?
And perhaps piggyback on the river, or piggyback on what we already have going for us.
You already have some natural resources, already things in place. What are those?
Run with it.
Right, yeah. Here's some space activators. It can be a large project like this band shell. It could be Art in the Alley, which is in Manistee. No, I just said Manistee. It's the one where the
You just showed the one picture of the other empty alley?
Yeah, no, that was hard. This is Munising, thank you. I knew it was an M, and I knew it was in the UP. Okay, Munising created a little art gallery with kids' art in their alley. And then this again is downtown Lapeer after a fire. This was a vacant land. They used Rotary money. They used a couple of grants. They used a ton of donations because people wanted to see this space activated. It's a beautiful public park now with, beautiful greenery, some sculpture, some art, again, playing on their art theme. So it can be something very small or very large, but again, you're creating those active spaces. As a mom of a youngster, I would much rather walk in that alley than a vacant alley that we just saw in the previous picture.
So as a DDA, we can go over here and help the Parks Department
If it's in your plan.
improve on the facilities or,
Is that in your district?
yes.
Okay, and that big park is? Yes, absolutely.
But it'd
And,
be interesting because we have a park in our district, but we also have a parks board.
right, so you're gonna
So
wanna, that's
we
the communication,
have
yeah,
to-
and definitely work with one another, yeah,
Help them
if it's in your plan.
by,
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the question of the social district is, are there any DDAs that have the social districts to where then when they work with their township, are they actually the ones selling the beverages
No,
or doing commerce to bring in revenue?
no, the DDA, no. Well, no,
Is
you,
there any part of a DDA that ever does commerce?
yes, you can do, you could sell merchandise. I mean, you could have, you know, I love downtown Comstock or whatever, t-shirts, sweatshirts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just as, like, as that snowball of TIF is going, and then you know, you talk about doing infrastructure. I mean, when you're talking about infrastructure, you're talking about spending money.
Right.
And anytime I spend money, I'm always thinking, how do I get it back?
Right.
And
You'll have to
try
sell a lot
get
of
ahead.
t-shirts for
Right,
infrastructure
so
these days, but
I just
yes.
wonder, other than
Yeah.
TIF, as you're working on a community buy-in to get that snowball going, what are the
So-
other ideas you ever see
okay.
to generate revenue?
So, I'm pretty sure Lapeer, if I'm not mistaken, but I know I did it in Imlay City. We had Rotary Park, and it was in the DDA district. So the DDA organized it, and we got involved Rotary, and we said, we need improvements. What can you do to help us? So Rotary donated $4,000. I wrote 2 grants, one to our Lapeer County Foundation, one to Fort County, saying we want to make improvements to this park. It's a necessity. We don't have something for this age group. They each donate, I think it was a total of $10,000. And then what we did, and this is something that you could do, is through the MADC, it's called patronicity, and I have it listed in a few minutes. And patronicity is crowdfunding. So you come up with a project that you think your community is really gonna love. People love parks. And now you have both the Parks and Rec and the DDA working together, and you can create a crowdfunding. So you put in the application, this is very simplified, I'm watering it down. You put in the application and you say, Comstock is going to raise $10,000 of a $20,000 project. And the crowdfunding comes in and people donate money, and if you make that $10,000, the MEDC will match it. So it's a great way to turn 10,000 into 20,000. And it's buy-in from your community, but you got to find a project that you think they will support. But it's a great way to get a bunch of community members together.
Here we go, selling t-shirts again.
We usually have 2 events in the park, the DDA sponsor.
I haven't heard anything about that this year, though.
We haven't talked about it because of the change of things. We are picking up the pieces, but every year we have 2 events, full house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's good, yeah.
so we can add that.
And you could even like do, that event, you could do a survey, you know, sticker survey, you know, what improvement would you want to see here? Is it new slides? Is it a kayak launch? I don't know, I'm just, yeah, so. Okay, here's that space and heart that I was telling you about. There's the before, the during, and the after. Look at that, that's beautiful. Unbelievable. Way different, again, public spaces and DDA activated it. So pretty. It can be it can be a facade grant, but here's downtown Oxford. They had a local farmer donate the truck, and volunteers decorate it for the season, and it's a Kodak memory every time someone comes. Okay, that's in their, you know, people's Facebook, Instagram all the time, and it's just showing off downtown Oxford. So it doesn't have to be a huge facade project. It could be something, what are you creating that people will stop, take a photo, and post it and say, I'm in Comstock. DDAs are economic developers, and again, here's some ways. On the left is the market study that, I think it's Blissfield creates through their Main Street program. Downtown in View, and again, this is how they have turned the public and private dollars and turned into things. You could mention volunteer hours. You could say we contributed to the township $10,000 to help with the sewers, whatever it is. But good ways to show what you're doing to help downtown, or help the community in economic development. This middle one is Lapeer again. Jim is great at getting Match on Main grants. Those are specific to Main Street programs, however, but it shows you that you can get grants for your community. And then again, we're in Hart, and if you see on the right-hand side, the Tin Man sculpture, but this is an incubator program. So these little cottages is what the DDA created, and again, it's that incubator where they rent that little space, and then with the hopes after the summer they move into a brick and mortar, but it activated this dead area and brought attention. Muskegon has a program too.
Some businesses in there.
Yeah,
Little
yeah.
template,
Yep.
pilot type.
Yep, so Muskegon is a great
How cool.
example, and Alpena has a great example as well. So remember, you're here and you're doing economic development. You might not have signed up for it, but you got it.
But, and there's some sort of sense with that is like almost running experiments.
Yeah.
Like having a pilot program of,
Yep. So when
you're an incubator, right?
Yeah. In
That's
Imlay,
neat.
yeah, in Imlay City, I will tell you that we ran it, and I had 2 that started and 2 after the 6 months said, owning a small business is not for me.
Yeah.
And I considered that a success, because they were not out thousands, they were not into a 3-year lease, they did not have a ton of product that they couldn't get rid of. So it can be, I mean, I looked at it as a success, like, okay, yeah. So what can a DDA do? So you want to read the Act, Public Act 57, you want to read your development plan, like I've mentioned a few times, understand your bylaws, and understand local zoning. All right, we're taking questions as we go, so I'm just gonna, okay, here you go. Other funding options. So we have TIF. The 2 mil levy is something that, and bonds is something I don't need to go into the weeds, because I think you guys are not at that stage where that's something that we need to discuss. Those are really for much larger projects. It takes a lot to get into them and a lot of buy-in. I just have it listed there. Private contributions, you could establish a principal shopping district. Now that is an additional charge to your local businesses. Again, you really need the buy-in for that, and probably a specific project in mind. Some rely on parking, like Petoskey, event revenue maybe, sales of merchandise, grants, sponsorships, property sales if your DDA owned property. You could have a nonprofit arm. Again, that's a lot of heavy lifting for some at the stage that you're in right now. Municipal contributions or partnerships, like maybe your Department of Public Works will help plant the flowers in exchange for whatever. And crowdfunding is what I mentioned before. So when I send you the link, that crowdfunding is a live link, and you can go right to the site.
Property sales, would that have to be property that's inside the district?
Yes, and that you own, that the DDA owns, because the DDA can own property. So in Imlay City, that building I keep talking about, the next DDA director, they decided to sell that building. So the DDA sold that building and received the sale of the property.
How would the DDA go about buying a property, I guess? Is that like a huge plan and everything? Or like if an owner comes to us and say, hey, I want to sell my property, work on an agreement, or do we gotta go through a long list of
No, make sure it's in your plan of some sort of owning property, et cetera. And then what are you gonna do with it? Is it because you want to try an incubator? Is it, move your office in there? So figure out what it's a plan, and in other words, you don't want to go into it lightly, but you can do it. It's an agreement you can do.
And that's where having somewhat of a broad plan helps you be able to be versatile.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay, reporting requirements. I'm not going to go way deep in this, but just understand that as a DDA, you have to do 3 things every year. So let's make sure you're doing them. 1, you have to maintain either a web page or a website. So on the township's webpage, you need to make sure that you have a tab that says Comstock DDA. And then on that webpage of yours, there's a list of items that you need. If you don't have it, do it, because it is in the law. DDAs have to do it. This is part of the law that changed in 2018 for more transparency. The MDA has a checklist for you that you can get off of our website. You don't even have to log in. It's right on, I don't know what page it's on, but it's on there. It's under resources maybe. And you can click to see what you need to add to it. You need to have 2 informational meetings a year. And an informational meeting is not a business meeting. There's no voting, there's no business. But someone is gonna go up and say, like in June and December, this is what our DDA is doing and this is what we plan to do. You're not gonna say at the meeting last month we discussed. Nope. This year we had training, we reorganized our structure. This is what we're looking forward to doing. It is outlined in the law, and again, it's on our website. We have a template within the portal that you can use. It's a PowerPoint. You take out our logo, you put in your logo, and you can follow that template.
Open meeting to the public.
She's giving us
Yes,
all kinds
so
of
you are
stuff
going
for our
to,
agendas
that is an open meeting, and you want to, and per the law, it's mentioned in the law what you have to do. You have to invite, in your case, the township, because you gather your tax increment financing from them. So you have to invite them, and there's like so many days notice, and you have to post it. And then you can do it in front of a DDA meeting, you could do it in front of the commission. There's no business, like I said, and you're just gonna tell the world how great you are.
You said that's twice a year?
Twice a year. It could be today and tomorrow, that's twice a year.
So it would be maybe a meeting that we hold for the public before we have our
Yeah.
regular board
Yep,
meeting.
yep, absolutely.
Be an extra day.
Township board?
Yes, for sure. They need to be invited.
And that's kind of like the reports that the fire department and all them come in there, give their yearly report.
I think what Jeffrey was gonna say is that that's the one I was talking about, but I think the way that the DDA did it was the DDA came to a township
right.
board
And
meeting
that's fine too.
and then presented it to the township
Yep,
board.
that's fine too.
That's what my question was gonna be, that if we can join a township meeting, if that would be one of the informational meetings.
Yep, you can
Well,
do that. Get on their
know.
agenda.
I don't know if that counts. I think we did have 2 meetings, at least one with you guys already.
Steve presented one, I
Just one,
believe, so far.
But we do for one more.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they can be, like I said, they could be back to back, although what's the purpose of that? They could be the same presentation, although what's the purpose of that? So, but it's all listed in our website on that resource that I told you, and also it spells it out in the law.
Okay.
Okay,
So
now-
we have to let you all know that we
Not
had
us,
that meeting?
not me.
Okay, just
Just your
our board.
township.
Township.
In the
So we-
public, it has to be publicly posted, I can't remember the,
Okay, I think we just need one more meeting.
Yep.
For the year.
for the year, yep.
So if we find out we're getting tip monies from any place else, or we.
Then you need to invite them,
Capability of getting tip monies from
What-
somewhere else,
yeah.
you know?
If you're getting other TIF money, make sure you invite them, yes. Yep, for sure. Okay, and then the really important one is every year you need to submit a yearly treasury report 6 months after your fiscal year ends. So you're going to work closely with your assessor or your clerk or your treasurer on this. She can lead you through, they probably are filling out that report because you would have gotten a note already from Treasury saying, turn it in, because Treasury will look for sure for this
Will you
part of
look
it.
into that for us, William?
Yeah, and so you can take a look and see, when is your fiscal end? June, oh no, townships are different, right? So is it December? Do you know?
I believe so.
Okay, so the 6 months will be coming up, so make sure you get that in before June 30th if your fiscal ends December 30th. It's a form on Treasury's website, and you can go through and fill it out and submit it, and you submit it to Treasury and the township, and any other taxing jurisdictions, but I think in your case, just the township. Okay? I'm assuming it's already been done from the past years?
And
'cause
our
you would have
township
gotten-
has a CFO as
Okay.
well.
perfect.
And then, so our bills, William, will you explain to her how because I know that's one of the requirements is the monthly meeting, we post our budget and our bills. Will you tell her how it goes, like with Brett?
So, yeah, so I just asked him to give me our budget, our expense report, and then I add it to our agenda, but he calculates all that.
Okay.
When we get an expenditure, the department head, which would be him, the chair, signs off of it. It goes to the clerks, they print a check, and then it gets signed.
Okay,
And then we just run that report to put in our agenda packet.
yep.
Sound good?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Question, what if that yearly report hasn't been done in the past? Do we get fined? Do we get audited?
It's a great question.
We are all pretty new at this,
Yeah.
and the last DDA kind of fell apart in some aspects.
Right.
We don't want to fall apart. We want
Right.
to make sure all of our ducks are in a row.
Absolutely. So of those three, the first thing I would suggest is the yearly report. Make sure that that's done and done on time. Treasury will send you a note, probably to your treasurer or to your township, saying the DDA has not filed this, and they'll give you so many days to do it. And then, yes, eventually they can hold funding.
But the township would also receive a notice of delinquency as well if
Yeah, I
you
think
did
that it
that.
would come to the township first, actually, because in your case, you don't have like a DDA
We're part of the
township, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not aware of any letter that the treasurer's office has received about the DDA.
yeah, I think you're
And
good.
especially if the bills have been going through the finance director, he's pretty sharp. I'm sure
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
above board, but
But a good
be
thing to
good to
check.
check.
I
Yeah.
think we're above
And
board.
then you're gonna post that, that's part of those website requirements that I listed, so you're gonna post that report.
Yeah, on our township website, there's a link for the DDA.
Awesome.
And it's, and our finance director actually, he updates that website, so I'm sure he's
Perfect.
keeping it up.
And those three things are that yearly report, treasury report to be posted, and what are the other couple things?
So you need a website or webpage.
Yep, which
You
we
need
have.
the 2 annual meetings and the
Okay.
yearly report.
In those annual meetings, do you post minutes to them on there? Is that,
You don't need minutes because it's not business,
okay.
just information.
So it's just one member of the board going to the places?
Yeah, yeah,
When
Yep.
Steve went to the township.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
And then last question
Yeah.
for this part would be, since I'm on the township board and the chair of the township board and I have my own agenda spot, would I possibly just be able to bring that forth, or
I
does
would
the
make it
chair?
no, you could, I would prefer, in that case, I'd prefer the chair.
Yep.
Just me being Dana with MDA hat
Yeah,
on.
for sure.
I would prefer the chair or someone else.
And then have that on the township
On the agenda,
agenda
yeah.
as under presentations.
Yep.
Because there's a spot for
Yep.
each board member for
Yep.
business, but then there's a presentations part. Have that under
And it
presentations.
could be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to,
We're signing you up, Jeffrey.
you don't need to serve popcorn.
I got a waiting with me.
All right, let's go over some relationships. So it is the intent of the law for the DDA to function as a separate entity from the municipality. You have your own board, you have your own budget, you can have your own committees. We encourage a strong partnership with the municipality for obvious reasons. Again, it's that communication. Why are we in separate silos when we all want a strong Comstock? We love it when a DDA is supported by a dedicated full-time director or part-time if the budget allows, if it fits. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But this structure allows individuals with direct state making decisions. You guys all have a direct state in your downtown success. Development efforts are driven by professionals focused on your downtown's unique needs. And you should be considering all your taxing jurisdictions. In your case, the township. You're working closely with the township. Ben is here per the law for that reason. The authority's relationship with the municipality. This allows an authority sometimes to be a lot more efficient in project development. There's less bureaucratic delay. Streamlined collaboration with investors, grant funders, organizations, developers, and you're strategically reinvesting back into your district. Again, back to that plan and that maybe strategic plan where you pick out your top 3 goals. The law says, here's a couple things the law says. The law says the DDA board must have the chief executive officer of the municipality or his or her designee from the governing body on its board. Okay, and why is that? Again, it's Ben being here, understanding what the DDA is doing, taking it back to the township. There's that communication. The law says board members shall be appointed by the chief executive officer of the municipality, subject to the approval of the governing body. We have a diagram that's on that slide that's also available within our portal on how to effectively do that. We have some communities, and we don't think this is best practice, where the mayor will appoint Johnny, who he's been friends with since kindergarten. No experience, doesn't fit a need, but he's a friend. That's not how good business is done, and no matter where you are, right? So we like to see where a mayor, for example, in my case, the mayor is working with the DDA and says, who do you need? Do you need someone with a skill set on finances? Do you need a skill set? Do you need a restaurateur? Who is missing on your board that would be a better representation of your district? Let's try and find that person. Can we get them in a committee to see, can they volunteer? Do they like this type of work? That's the best way to do it.
Is there, just like the Planning Enabling Act, when you appoint a planning commission, there's some guidelines? Is there similar guidelines to appointing a DDA board as well?
You would look at your bylaws to see what your bylaws say, and then in the law, it says one of the board members has to be the chief executive officer, and then I think it's between 8 and 12 members.
Yeah, then like the resident member,
yeah,
and
and
then.
so many have to be.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
that's what we did, was we worked.
Yeah.
And our ordinance was when there's a vacancy, it's appointed by the supervisor.
Okay.
So we had vacancies.
Yeah.
And then because I had the opportunity to appoint planning commission members, I kind of used that same principle of different industry segment.
Yep.
and
Yeah.
To the extent practical, the
Yeah. And-
geographical location.
Yeah, and just like any board, whatever board you're on, you don't want too heavy of a representation from a, I just had the question yesterday of, we now will have, 4 members of council on our DDA board. They're a separate authority for a reason, right?
Right, I
So
gotcha.
it's, you don't want that either.
Yeah.
And I know small towns, I get it, I'm from a small town, I live in a small town. So I know it's sometimes difficult to find people willing to serve, but really do your best to offer that variety, because you're representing the community, your district. And then the last thing that the law says about a municipality is it shall approve the DDA budget. So working with the township, you're going to create a DDA budget. The township board shall approve it. And then once it's approved, your DDA is responsible for following your line items, following your plan to spend or not spend that money. Okay, so the municipality cannot say the DDA, we've approved the budget. Let's say we've approved the budget, and then you turn in an invoice to pay for $100 in flowers. The township, the municipality can't say you can't pay that. We're not paying that. It's already been approved by the budget.
Sure.
Okay, you have your own budget. The municipality already approved it. You're your own authority.
What about changes from the budget, minor changes, line item things,
Yep.
like we don't have a director anymore.
Yep.
And that budget was approved with a director.
Yep.
And then because we all were and then we decided to not do flowers.
Yep.
So then we're all pretty new, and instead of just kind of throwing agenda items together, we wanted training. So we approved the expenditure for the
Yep.
renewal of the MDA, which is something we've done in the past. But we didn't directly have the training, but we didn't directly yet change the budget. So where and when can we have purview to change the budget, and when do we need to circle back for their approval? And then if the budget's approved, redirecting the funds, is that
Yeah.
a change
So,
of, how does
yeah.
that work?
So for the DDA, so once the budget's approved, the DDA, as long as it's in the plan, again, as I mentioned, right? You can, so you no longer have a director, so let's call that $40,000, So that $40,000, if you wanted to use it for something else on your budget items, or maybe your event item is 10,000, maybe we can bump that fall festival now to 12,000, as long as you're not going over your main line item. So if you're saying you're gonna spend $100,000 this year, don't spend 105 without going back to council and saying, we need to amend. But you can make those little adjustments within.
Within the line items of the
Yes.
principal number?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We can take those two things, like the plant fund and the director fund, and put them in what we need to without the township's approval.
Right, and then I would go back, out of courtesy perhaps.
Yeah.
And say, this is what we did, and this is why, just as an FYI.
And perhaps then through my platform of the township board agenda, could maybe I then pass along that message? Or would it be better, once again, to have Jeffrey come do that as a presentation?
I'm gonna leave that up to the community and let you decide what you think is best there. I mean, I like when the DDA comes to the meeting for certain things like that.
Yeah.
But that is why you are, there. And I don't know if your township looks at at the DDA's budget on a monthly basis, that you could do that too. When I was in Inlay City, I think our DDA budget was put in the city's agenda.
Yeah, as point of continuity, I could do that, but maybe on the annual, the semi-annual
Yeah.
presentation, have Jeffrey come.
Yeah.
But then as a way to kind of keep business rolling and going, just on my agenda item, I cross that bridge. If we're essentially not changing the principal number, but reallocating the funds and just moving it around, let them know, like, hey, I'm not asking you for your approval tonight, but I'm letting you know that we reallocated these funds. And if you look at the budget, you'll understand this is why.
Right, and again, like anything, and I'll relate it to you at home or another board, but if you're doing that, what is the purpose? Not just to throw another $5,000 at the festival, but this is what we think, and that's just common fiscal. So that's why I think also if you keep looking at your plan and have these conversations, that you can, if someone does say, why'd you do that? Well, we talked about it, here are the minutes, this is what we decided, we really think there's value in adding a kayak launch. And that's why we put 10,000 more into our public spaces budget, for example.
So it looks like on our website, which I'm just finding out now that we have, it has a pretty detailed audit of every single year since
Good.
we've started. And it's got a pretty clear idea of what we're supposed to be doing in 2026, because we've got something coming up on the 25th, June 1st, and 31st of August. So I think those things we're pretty obligated to do for as of right now.
Do as in, what?
So it says a Memorial Day Parade,
Oh.
Parks and Recs Farmers Market on June 1st, and a National Night Out on August 4th. So it looks like
And
whoever was maintained.
that seems like most of those couple items are spearheaded by the parks already, and maybe the DDL was just kind of riding the coattails of
Okay.
of that.
Yeah.
Sounds-
And
But it
again,
would be good for us to.
yeah,
That is something that we do every year, so it's already on the books.
And a little bit of the hard part about the page on the page is it's buried.
right.
It's really like you got to go clicking around to know
Yes.
Yes.
it's there.
So eventually, you certainly could have your own website, or you could make it more prominent.
Could you do like a Facebook?
The law says a website. But yes, you could put stuff on Facebook, but that would not comply with what the law says.
So the website's the law, the Facebook would be internal.
But I mean, the website, we're buried in it, but could we do, that could be like what the law says, but then have a Facebook where we update, say, once a week?
Correct,
Where,
and then she recommended that we have likely a social media
Yeah.
policy and
Yeah.
then
Yep.
direct the chair or
Yep.
somebody to do
I
it.
think updating the, weekly or at least a couple times a month and everything, telling them what the DDA has plans.
That was my original idea, is that if the DDA wants support in community outreach and wants to post something at its own time,
Yep.
within its own control, under its own purview, as I recommended, we were in control of our own social media, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, who was making this stuff back here? Because this is impressive, like whoever was doing all this work. Because I'm going through.
We have a company that does our web page for us. We
No, not even the
I
webpage.
think it was,
Who's doing the bylaws in 23? These people are detailed.
it was probably the old planning commission.
This seems like Holly. I'm not gonna lie, because I remember dealing with Holly before, and that lady was intense, and that seems very intense.
So that's good to take a look at and see
Yeah,
what you have.
sorry,
No,
I'm
that's
sorry, I
okay.
got distracted.
So for downtown directors, if you were to have a downtown or a DDA director, the law goes through what those responsibilities are. I'm gonna just kind of roll through a few of these. Again, the role of the downtown directors. And I want to get to the role of DDA board members. So you have three main functions as a board member. You want to set strategy and direction for your authority. You want to provide oversight. No, I don't think that event's going to work because you're going to close the streets and I'm a restaurateur and that's just, or yes, I think the public does want it. I was talking with blah, 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 blah. Ensuring resources. Resources can be people, it can be money, it can be things. So you want to help with that. You have some areas of governance like policy, finance, public relations program, direction, personnel, compliance. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but again, when you're taking a look at empty board seats, do we have someone that maybe at least can dabble in some of these? Or, where are some weaknesses that we have that we could use some expertise on? It's hard, I get it in a, my town that I live in, I don't know what the population is, it's small. Best practices, be unified up front as a board. That's why you have the Open Meetings Act and an agenda and discussion times, and you vote. And then once that vote is done, you do need, in my opinion, and in the MDA's opinion, to be a unified front. It does no one any good to say, I can't believe what that board did yesterday. Well, aren't you part of that board?
Yeah.
So again, just like in anything, you can certainly have disagreements, but there is a process, and knowing Robert's rules and Open Meetings Act certainly helps. Be confident of your program and your organization. You being here tonight certainly adds to that, on what you can do and why you are doing it, more importantly. Be an advocate for your downtown. Do you know what the local businesses are? Do you know your local policies? Things like that are very important. Be engaged and help people to the organization. If someone mentions something about the flowers not being planted, we were looking for a volunteer. I think you'd be good, right? So get people to the table, whether it's volunteer members or resources, but also, maybe you have a donor in mind, a sponsor in mind for something. You should try and get, if you haven't, a conflict of interest policy. Those are easily ripped off and duplicated from other organizations. Just Google it and make it fit yours. But if you're going to take a vote, does this vote directly benefit me? And if it does, then don't vote on it. Say, I'm excusing myself from this. Know your mission or vision statements, and if you don't have one, you guys can make one. Just again, to help people know what your DDA is about. Participate, make sure you review and understand your agenda and your board packet. Serve on a committee. Go to meetings, events, fundraisers, go to things in downtown, review your policies, events. This is, to me, common knowledge about any board you're going to serve on. Understand what businesses and people are within your district. When I owned a business in downtown Farmington, the chairperson of the DDA board never stepped into my store. And that bothered me, and I called him out on it. And 2 days later, he was in my store. Because as the chairperson of a DDA, which was not that big, you should know what your businesses are.
Well,
You should know each
Can I
other.
ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if I come visit your business and you're looking to expand or bring other business in, can I be a business owner on the board?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yep, for sure. Yep. So there are resources for board members, the MGA. Your organization, if you have a vision or mission statement, again, if you don't have one, start thinking about what that might look like. It really helps to focus people. Again, and then someone brings an event and you're like, ooh, that just does not fit our vision. You could create a board handbook. Again, this is something that you can rip off and duplicate from other boards and other organizations. It doesn't have to be a DDA, but that might be where you find your social media policy, your conflict of interest, past agendas, past budgets, things like that. Clear expectations of what is expected. So when I was the chamber director in Imlay City, and this is embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you what I told future board members, I'm like, come join us, it's the easiest job you'll ever have. And guess what I got? Very little from those people because the expectations were down here, right? So if you can tell people coming in, this is what we do, this is what we expect from you, it really does help. Again, parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules, Open Meetings Act, get a general, at least, knowledge of it. You'll be amazed at how much better and easier your meetings are and how much more you can accomplish. Some best practices, we encourage joint work meetings, especially with budgets and master plans and major projects. Work with your planning commission, your parks, I've heard that a few times. Go to a meeting or two and just at least sit in and see what they're talking about and start communicating. There's, again, the silo reference, right? If there's a director, they're guided by the board. We'll go to the last one, the unified front, understanding Robert's rules, conflict of interest policy. Be responsible for your vote and actions. If you're voting, take responsibility for your yes, your no. Remember what is expected of you and celebrate your success. That's where that snowball can come in. If you can start with something small and showy and get people on board with you and celebrate that success. That could be a great Facebook page. This is what the DDA did. That could be the annual newsletter that I mentioned. A couple pretty pictures on what you're accomplishing goes a long way. Again, remember this graph. The importance of the DDA, you're reinvesting. What you're capturing is not an increase in property tax. You're not taking money from anyone. You're still at that cap, and you, because of your reinvestment, you're turning that back into future development and more for the community as a whole. Additional resources is our MDA member portal. Other communities, make sure that you're taking a look at other communities and asking them questions. I can certainly help you with that. The Main Street Solution Center, that is part of the Michigan Main Street program. They created a Main Street Solution Center. Almost any question you have about best policy, about best practices, about everything downtown is on that, and it's free. So if you click on that and you want to ask about historic preservation, there's a topic for it, so make sure you use that. The MEDC was supposed to be here tonight, so that's great. Make sure you use Sarah. She certainly can help.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna talk with us on like tools and resources, and then her partner is gonna kind of set some training for us, and then the redevelopment ready certification
Perfect.
is up for renewal.
Yep.
So we're gonna run a parallel with those two on stuff.
Yeah, so you have a lot
as soon as possible.
Yeah, so there are a lot of, I don't like this expression, a lot of tools in your toolbox that you can work with. So for additional resources, the MDA obviously, and like I mentioned, the downtown solution, that's my contact. Feel free to reach out to me. Again, I appreciate you being here on a Tuesday night in May. Is it Wednesday or Tuesday? It is Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday. So I do appreciate that. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, my question is, because there are so many tools in the toolbox and resources, that's where, sometimes when there's so much, how do you not get overwhelmed, to kind of wade through, making sure that we've went through the toolbox.
So I guess what I would suggest is that everyone take a look, find the bylaws, find your DDA plan, your TIF plan, and review that on your own. And then maybe this is May, so maybe in August the plan is let's just have a discussion on what, just think about that. And then from there, can you think of, so that'll be August. So can you think of 2 things that you'd love to accomplish in the from August to December, and make them manageable, because you don't want to start off already feeling the stress of failure.
And when we change the plan, is that changed plan, is that just an internal ever-changing document, or do we need to submit that to somebody?
No, the strategic plan you can do internally.
Okay.
If you're changing the downtown development plan, then that's that goes further.
Okay.
But I'm just talking about this group right here saying, we've read the bylaws, we've read our plan, let's concentrate on two things.
Okay.
And let's make those two things manageable, because we have 6 months, we want to see growth, we want to snowball.
Yeah.
What are those two things?
Here's a crazy question. Okay, if you look at that map right there, you see the water that's running north-south, right there along 26th
Yeah.
Street? That park, that's Comstock Township Park, is it not?
Yeah, both of them are.
Just outside the DDA area. Right across the street at the top of that, right there, just to the left of that a little bit, is another Comstock Park, which one falls within the district and one falls outside the district.
Yeah.
The one we can't do anything for,
Correct.
but the other one
Yeah.
is not really in a business district, it's in a
Yep.
Okay. And then, that's great. And then on further clarity, you've definitely seen and done quite a bit. Are there any no-nos? You're like, hey, these are the little pitfalls you guys are definitely gonna see or that we should probably avoid? Is there anything that you're like, hey,
that's a good-
watch out for this?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is making sure that the director or the board or the chair, they have education, so this is like a huge step.
Okay.
So that the township or the municipality, because we do have members where they're struggling right now because the municipality doesn't understand the law and that the DDA is its own authority. So that to me is key, and that you know that you can come to the MDA and say, can you back us up on this? And I'll say, yes, here's the law. So that's huge. And then don't take on, again, don't take on more than you can chew at first, because this is a lot of newbies, right? And a lot of, and I can tell that there's a lot of passion, otherwise you wouldn't be here on a Tuesday in May. So take advantage of that and really build on those like smaller, I don't want to call them small and diminish them,
Yeah.
but they can be very important. I think you'll see that. And then, you know, again, it's transparency, and if you can get to the meetings that we talked about, the reporting that sounds like it's done, take a look at your website. I'm pretty sure that, you know, that's current, things like that. But yeah, that's where I see the lack of communication, where you don't have that relationship between the township and the DDA or the planning. I love the fact you might get involved with the Parks or the Planning Commission. That makes a lot of sense.
For the training, I think in South Haven,
Yes.
is that registration closed already?
No.
Okay. And I guess, how do we go about registering for that stuff?
We're gonna talk about that at our next meeting.
So, yeah, okay, so when's your next meeting, next week?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because that's coming up.
Okay.
So for registration for the event, you can contact me and I can register you, because you all would get member rates, so it's $150 per member to attend the day. And you probably in your budget have training, or you should, for board members or staff in your budget line items,
Yeah,
something
in the
like
next
that.
meeting, I think we'll be discussing who would be eligible to go to those meetings, than
Yeah,
the whole
that's-
board.
right.
I think we would just select
Yeah.
a few from this board.
Sure,
To go.
yeah,
As
And then-
representing
yeah.
board members. And we'll
Right.
bring back our information
and
to
share
the
it,
board
yeah.
members.
Yeah, and then, I don't know what my next point was. Did I answer your question?
Kind of the timeline on the training
Yeah,
and signing
so
up.
If you discuss it next week, if the early bird has passed, call me, I'll honor the early bird price,
Okay.
because I don't remember when my deadline is.
Okay, what is the early bird price? How much?
$150 a person,
Okay,
yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah.
If you wanted to do a continuing education, is that a good place where someone would start?
I would take a look at a lot of our resources on our website, look at those webinars that I discussed. You can purchase them as the DDA board and then share those out. Those would be a really good start for that kind of stuff. And then ask questions of higher education. Well, the MDA offers a program that people can apply for. The information's on our website, and it's 16 sessions. It's called the Professional Development Certificate Program,
Yeah,
and that's on our website.
If they wanted me to train, that's different.
I see.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, one more question. You said we're eligible to write a grant. So we need a grant writer here on our board, or can we hire one?
Yes and yes.
Yes, yes, thank you.
There's also resources that she gave us. There was also grant writing resources that she gave us as well.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Do 3, definitely.
William said we're good, we're good. That's my man there.
Keith, you got any questions for us?
No. All right. Yeah, I mean, obviously access. Do we have access to all this information you just went over?
Yeah, I'll send it to Jeffrey or Ben. I
You
have
send it
Ben's.
to me.
Yeah, and I'll send that in a PDF, and then he can share it. And all those links should be live. If they're not, let me know, and I'll
Do
fix
we
that.
still have access to the webinars that Steve paid for last year?
I can resend those. If I can look, yes, you would, but I might have
I
to.
know he paid for them
Okay.
and gave certain people access, but
Okay.
not everyone.
So would those be the webinars you have on the website right now?
No, that's why I'm asking.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
like those 11, we might already have 10
You
of
might
them?
already have them, right, I'll check.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look at what websites were paid for.
Yeah, I mean, I
Webinars.
know he discussed it. I know he said he paid for it, but we, at least the couple of members that are still here, never saw access to it.
Okay.
So,
I'd be more than interested in taking the full gamut.
Okay, yep. I'll double check and again send the links to Ben.
And then, like last time when you gave me a quote for the training and then a quote for the renewal, would you have a quote for all the webinars? That you could send it to us and we could put it in our packet?
Yeah.
To see if we could put that quote for purchasing all webinars in the packet and see if we get board approval.
Yeah.
And then maybe as an agenda item over a period of time, we could send that link out prior to the board meeting and then have a discussion.
Yeah. And
Kind
I'll
of like
see.
in
Why don't
school.
we figure out which ones we already have
Right,
first, and then
first, and
ask
then-
her which ones we still need, and then get a price on just those,
Yeah, just those.
instead of a price for all of them.
I mean,
Yep.
because let's be honest.
Yep.
Either way,
Social district
that-
training has really nothing to do with
Right,
it, so
exactly.
It'd be a waste of money.
Yep.
Where are you gonna put it? I mean,
Right.
put it on Main Street?
Right, well, and that's
Really
something
the only, you
down
know,
the way if you could look
Yeah.
at, but I would concentrate
that
more
would
on
be a
that.
training I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
pay for
Yep.
because obviously we don't need it.
Yeah, yeah, so I'll send you what you got and what would be pertinent.
That would be the thing. I want to see what Steve's already paid
Yep.
for and what we have access to that we just don't know we have
Sure.
access to before we pay for a bunch of trainings.
Absolutely.
William, do you think we can get that information?
Oh, I'll get it.
Oh, you
The
get it?
webinar stuff, yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so just we'll see overall what we have, what we want to buy, and select and
That makes
take board action
Yep.
in order to do that. And then once instead of trying to say, hey, 7 of the 11 we got, let's tackle them all tonight, you would kind of over the foreseeable future, kind of like when you got called on in school and you didn't study and they asked you.
Right.
Like you get the link and then you talk about it, board discussion at the board meeting, and that kind of holds everybody accountable to reviewing the material.
So you release one at a meeting and review it the next. So it gives a month for everybody to look at.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, let me start with this then. Is there any members' comments?
I think that's what we're doing basically.
We'll start
right now.
with member Larry and come around, so we won't go back and forth with each other. That sounds all
I
right?
guess I'm interested in the additional education to, I understand the purpose of the board. I know what we can and can't do now better than I did before, actually, just a little bit of time here. I think there's things that we can do for the area. It's unfortunate that I don't understand the drawing of the map, because there's places that should be on there, I think, that aren't. I know you say that's kind of work to be done, but I would think that would be something good to look into, and whether it's feasible.
That would change our TIF though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it could, so I would,
If you change the map, wouldn't
Yeah.
the date change on the tax capture? Or does that?
when the
stay
map,
270?
yeah, so it gets a little
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah, but I
End
mean,
up with black.
So
it could
way
be
out-
set up to
Yeah,
take place maybe down the road. It doesn't have to take place
yeah,
right away.
I would,
mean,
yeah, I'd put that
Yeah.
over here and then
But it
cut,
needs to have the
Way
investigation
much.
done so that we planned it ahead of time.
right,
Because
and it is
I
a
mean,
process.
all of us have looked at that map and said, we don't understand it.
No, it makes perfect
I think we can look into it,
It's not to you.
yeah.
Or me.
To somebody else,
Somebody,
it makes
somebody,
sense to,
somebody
but
makes sense
To
to.
us, it doesn't make sense because
Yeah.
it discounts a lot of the businesses that are actually within a mile of here.
Right.
Yeah,
I
you
think we
don't want
can,
a huge
we
deal.
can look into it, you know, down the road, but right now, I think we need to focus on one or two main projects that we know of, that we can put our hands on, and then future reference, we can back up to this map and try to work that way.
I think one of those main projects is that that wall painting we have, getting that redone before the end of the year.
They just redid it a year ago. And I know it's peeling, but they just redid it a year ago.
Yeah, I think touching it up or something, or see about the bathrooms we have down here. Talking with the parks and do like a mural or whatever you want to call it, a nice picture wrapped around or something. Because I mean, that's one thing is when that first came up, there were so many people that would stop and look at that.
Yeah.
And I'm talking back when I was still in school, I think like elementary, when they got
That's
put
been a
up.
long time ago.
It has.
Well,
Yeah,
it was
okay.
done in 85 originally.
Mr. Knight?
That was good training. I liked learning it all. I'm encouraged to learn more. I think we all need to take a deep breath and not try to overload ourselves with too many things.
Yep.
We are a new board. Well, not all of us are new, but we're learning. So take it with baby steps, not running.
Right.
I'm good. I did the listen, if I was gonna talk, I'm not gonna be listening, so.
Mine is really simple. I want to learn more, but at the same time, I think we're opening our mouth really wide here. We need to be careful what we bite on. That's my point of view. I've raised this about the flowers, and I'll raise it again. You get the cart too far in front of the horse, something's going to go wrong here. So, you know, we need to spend a little more time as a board ourselves and sit down and do the decisions of what projects, and that this ain't the place for it right now at this training. That's something we need to look at, maybe way we had it with a couple of committees to come up with ideas and then bring those ideas to the board so everybody has a chance to look at those things. That's my board comment.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time and setting this up and doing this, and I liked the renewal of the MDA membership. I liked going in front of the board for approval for the training. I like the training. I like the MEDC training that we have and the other part of the training. And that is my idea, is that before we really even start taking any action further than training, we need to just be focused on training. I'll work with William and Jeffrey on ideas for the board meeting agenda for the next board meeting, but I think you raised some really good points. We need to roll up our sleeves and say, here's the website. This is our website. Do we understand our own webpage? What are our bylaws? And even if it's gruesome and doesn't sound like fun, I think we just need to hunker down and then pull it up on the screen and we review the bylaws. And then we review our ordinance and we understand when we came about and how we came about. I do agree to an extent. It would be good to understand why the map is, but then stop kind of right there and then maybe understand later of how we got to where we are. But I think that the next board meeting, we should all think about just really getting through the bylaws and the ordinance and understanding further things, and then do some more training, and then propose at our next meeting, maybe 1, 2, 3 of us, go to the South Haven one, and then from there, another meeting, talk about the Kalamazoo training, and then just spend some time learning and training rather than being busy.
Right.
Because if we
What is
can,
the price of the Kalamazoo training? I know you mentioned South Haven was 150, but we did not talk about it.
$275 for the 2 days.
and then another thing is
4th, 5th, and
November
6th of
4th through
November.
6th, maybe? let me double check my dates.
and all this training and all this stuff is fun, and in my business, there's so many different little tools and gadgets and trainings that I want to go to, but at the end of the day, I always remember they cost money. And so if we
4,
want to
5,
go
6.
get trained and learn and do this cool stuff, on the back end, we ought to figure out how to make some money in the meantime too. So that's like where we should, because if the money's there that we're making, we can go to the training, but it's got to be a two-way street. Thank you.
Honestly, it's a lot to learn. It's really nice. I appreciate you being here. And I think I can second Keith's opinion in regards to, approach this with a degree of humility. We don't know, and what we don't know, we can't do. And so I can appreciate everybody giving me the time. So I ask for patience from y'all, from myself, and so that we can all get on the same page, and then slowly but surely we can make some meaningful changes that we can help our community. And let's not lose sight of that. We're here for our community. We're serving on their behalf, and that hopefully we can do a positive change. As much as, I like to be up in the clouds, I think I can definitely humble myself. And so that's all I have to say. And I say thank you again. Thank you, everybody. And appreciate giving me the opportunity. So.
Thank you very much. This was wonderful. It was some things that you said that I knew all the time. Like I said, I've been on this board for probably 8 years. I don't say too much. I'm not a computer savvy, but I do know business. I know how to put projects together. And the things that you said was refreshing. I come from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and my nephew was a part of a board like this, and they got $34 million and put a package together, beautiful senior home, affordable senior home, rehabilitation, all of that they worked with. And also here in Kalamazoo on the north side, happened to know the person that did all the development of the NACD on the north side, similar to this board. Millions of dollars, making the community happy, putting a smile on people's faces, helping businesses grow. And that's my goal, is to help the community business. I think I would say this board has done something because I'm on the board. We talked with the person I think you had something to do with too, Supervisor, the Kearney store, and how we redeveloped that just overnight with ideas like this. What can we do? What can we help? He had a salon that he wanted to open up, and I'm a retired cosmetologist, 45 years. I came out of retirement and put one in his business. So as a representative of the DDA board, I think that's a plus for us. And also there's a dime and something store is phenomenal. Businesses are coming from everywhere, from all out of state to purchase items from there. So I think what we need to do is crawl before we walk. And what you brought to us was just refreshing. There were some things, I got so many notes that I want to share with the board. William can write all this down and get it on next meeting. But what I say that this board is have a mind to work. And if I would use a scripture, the Bible says that Nehemiah built the walls and the people had a mind to work. So we have to be on one mind. We pick projects that we all can agree upon and work it. Comstock needed badly, they need our help. And if we focus on 1 or 2 projects like you talked about, I think we can meet that goal overnight. And also with the park, we already scheduled. I just need some guys to work with me on putting this together in the park. And good suggestion. Put something up there for the DDA that can, get some volunteers and ask could they help. and be a part of this park event we have. We have two. I think it's a Summer Fest and a Fall Fest. And it's a big showing. They come from everywhere, and we have a great time. Commissioner John, he works, him and I, works with the basketball. We have trophies that we give out. We have a lot of things. But one thing we haven't done, and you was talking about, we can get money. I needed some suggestions from the board members when we have this fest. Can we solicit monies?
You can.
We can.
Don't.
Wow.
3-on-1
Sponsorship
or
or something.
3-on-3 tournament? Or-
We have that, but when we have all the other vendors, I don't know, I gotta look in there and see, do you know, Ben, did we pay for those vendors? Or, I mean, did they pay us? Or did they just come in free as a part of the,
That might be a parks question too.
yeah. I mean, because we have all kind of vendors.
Yeah.
And we can, if the DDA can be a part of that, I mean, that would accumulate some finances.
Does the DDA run the basketball
Yeah,
tournament?
we run the whole program. The DDA is sponsoring the event. This is, yes, right, this is our event, the Summer Fest and the Fall Fest. We have the fire department, the police department, we have
So that's
a
not the
band.
parks event, it's a DDA event.
DDA.
at the park.
Sure.
Well, then,
But we never, I don't recall the secretary mentioning that we charged, anyone gave us any money, they just came out.
Yeah, I just feel like they came out.
Yeah, they just came. So I think we need to put that in our next meeting on these two and how we can raise some money for that.
We're gonna have a conversation about the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, thank you, Dana
Yep,
Walker.
thank
You
you.
did a fantastic job.
you.
I can listen to you all day. I'm
Well,
glad I
don't give me
can.
that chance.
You did a
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you so much.
That's right, yeah. Thanks, everybody,
Well-
thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. Well, I guess we're gone. See you later.
Thank you very much, Dana.
Yeah, thank you.